Greetings and welcome back to Becoming a Published Author is Fun. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, then check out episode 8 where I explain that. But today we are in episode 37 and our subject is the promise. Now this is not somebody else's promise, it's T&R Independent's promise to you. So let's take a look at it. We live today in a world of giving back. You start a business, you have a career, something in which you succeed in. And many people will ask you, well, what are you doing? What are you giving back or paying back? It's almost as if they deserve to be paid back because I guess they were your friend, because they bought your product, or because they did this or that. It's a worldview today that what's in it for me. And so many of the people who make that question, some of them are genuine, sincere people, but the vast majority of them, I'm afraid, are just looking at it as, what can I get out of it? What's in it for me? As Christians, though, we have a higher standard. And so ours is basically, this is my words, but I believe that this is what God wants us to do, is not to give back to the local community. We reach out to the local community. We minister to the local community. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about giving back as a business. And so we Christians give to, well, first of all, there are the tithes, and that belongs to the church. So that's not even on the table. I just want to make that a point to you, that the tithes belong to the church. You don't give them away to anybody else. They belong to the local church. So, but let's look at this. Money, or in the Bible it's called love offering, alms. You see that a lot, particularly in the Old Testament, but you see it in the New Testament too. Same thing, alms. That's your love offering. That's your giving to offering. But it's not restricted to money. You can give it to, you can give goods. Now, one of the things I just to share with you is the church that I belong to, which is Tri-City Baptist Church of Port Charlotte, Florida. And our church got really hit hard in Hurricane Ian. And we literally had to have the building redone. But before we ever did that, we started meeting in a tent. But before we even did that, we started moving, or actually our pastor, who lost everything, but didn't lose a member of his family, but he lost most of everything else. Basically, they lost everything. And he set in motion not to get stuff for himself. Other people wanted to do that. But he coordinated what turned out to be a nationwide effort. Trucks were just pulling into our parking lot there and unloading tons of goods to be freely distributed to anybody who had a need. Was it restricted to people in our church? No. Was it restricted to just people in Port Charlotte? No. Was it restricted to people just in our county? No. We opened it up to anybody, and we had, I believe we had people coming from other counties to take advantage. Now, this is not an area of giving money away. What we were doing is giving food. I know they also gave away gas for your car. I think they also may have given away kerosene and other things that you might use around the house. We gave away goods. I saw the bed springs, bedding itself. We had a whole half of a room, and this is a pretty large room that we have, our fellowship hall. Half of that was devoted to giving away clothes. All sorts of things are. In our church, the church building itself, we had torn part of it already down, had been moved. The pews, everything been stacked and everything off in the corner. And they turned that into a distribution center. And so we were able to just give money, well, not money, but food, goods, I'm not sure all that we gave away, and nor do I know the how much it cost the church. It wasn't in my area that I worked, and so it was none of my business, and so I don't know. But I do know what we did as a church. After that was over, we then started loading our buses up with some of these foods and goods and taking them to other counties so that people could take advantage of this. And it was, you could call that all under love or alms, whichever one you wanted to use. But that's what our church did. Now, one word here. When the Bible talks about feed my sheep in the New Testament, it's not talking about food, physical food, or even physical goods. It's talking about spiritual food, feeding the sheep, teaching them, preaching them the Word of God to them. That's what the New Testament is talking about. That is not what this was. This was simply an opportunity to give to others, to show our love, to express it in a way that would benefit them. And so we did that. Another thing is an opportunity. Now, this is separate from what this was. This is something that I don't know of anybody that got a job or anything out of that. They may have come and asked for, do you know where I can get a job? And somebody there may have been able to point them to some place. But opportunity is another area that you can give. Money, food, goods, opportunity. T&R Independent Books gives opportunity to those of you who are Christians. You believe that God has called you to be an author. Now, there are two callings involved here. Well, three, really. Everybody's called to be a Christian. When you receive Christ as your Savior, then you are a Christian. Once you're a Christian, there are two more calls on your life. One is for, maybe even more than that. Let's see. One is an area of service in your church, your local church. Another one is might be for a job, for instance, to become a writer. And then there's another third one in which you become a writer of Christian books. A little bit different. You can be called to write, and your books should be within the Christian worldview. And that is something that every person who is a Christian and who is an author, they get that call. But not every Christian author gets the third call, which is to write Christian, not necessarily worldview, but although it would be involved in worldview, but Christian fiction, Christian nonfiction, things of this nature. Me, I received the call to write. I've always wanted to write ever since I was a teenager, at least. But I received the call to write in the year 2000. I was 57 years old. And that call came in my Bible devotion, in which God literally pointed out to me something I could write on, a fiction, a novel. As somebody said later on when describing my work, that I tell the rest of the story. I take the basic facts that are in the Bible, and then I weave a story around, under, in, through. I tell the rest of the story. And so that is what a Christian author does. You can do that in fiction. You can write nonfiction. There you probably won't see much in the way of any kind of fiction. What you're going to see is facts and the ability to relate them to you. Sometimes facts are very complicated, very high-minded, I guess you might say, and you need to bring it down to your level. And if you can bring it down to your level, then you can communicate it to somebody else. Now, my throat's getting dry, so I'm going to have a little bit of a drink here. So, here's some of the areas in which we at T&R, I should say I, but at the moment I keep thinking, It was started by my wife and myself, so I used to saying we. But right now it's me. And I give you the opportunity to learn to write. Now, what do I bring to that? Well, my own writing experience. Now, I've gone through the School of Hard Knocks, which I don't think you want to do. I would hope you wouldn't want to do that. It's not a good school. You learn some of the bad things about writing. And I was in it though for decades because I had other things going on in my life that was drawing on me time-wise, energy-wise, money-wise, you name it. So I didn't have the ability to really go to a school and learn. I did for a short time, but I got laid off. And then my job I had, and then when I came back, that's when I was never able to get back to that school. So, the ability to learn, we call that BAT, which I'll talk about down here. But the ability to learn, to teach you. I do a teaching and coaching thing. I call it the 2-tier method, and I've explained that in previous posts. But you'll learn how to write. Not everybody knows how to do it. You're not born a writer. There are some that you might think were. They've never had any training or anything, and it comes rather easy to them. But they do learn. A lot of times it's by observation, by just reading about it, how to do it, and they pick it up really fast and do it. But most of us, we have to learn through teaching, experience, and so forth. That's one way. To become a published author. So here you're learning to write. Now you've learned to write. Now you need to learn how to become whatever you want to become. In this case, it would be a published author. And that it has kind of involved itself. There's 3 types of publishing out there, traditional, self-publishing, and indie publishing. And it's good to know the difference. I've gone into those differences in the past. I recommend indie. It's by far the best. Not only best opportunity for you to succeed, you can actually do most of it yourself if you're a mind to. You can, in fact, do almost all of it yourself if you have a mind to. And it's not going to cost you very much money to do that. However, if you're somebody who says, I want to write and I don't want to be bothered with all the publishing and marketing aspects, then you start hiring people. As an indie author, you are in control and you're able to hire somebody. You're also able to fire them. Whoever you hire, you can fire. And so that's one of the things you can do. T&R Independent Books is somebody you would hire to do your work. In this case, maybe to learn and to become published. And finally, to do. What do I mean by to do? When you learn how to write, and you should be writing at that point yourself, then you become a published author. Or once you become a published author, you need to do the marketing. Most marketing in the literary field, anyhow, is done by the author. Been that way for a long time. Prior to that, I believe, publishers actually did the whole thing because many authors were unknown. They would mail their manuscript in and then hope for the best. And so the publisher was in control of it. They set the price, they set how much profits you got, excuse me, and so forth. So how does T&R Independent Books do this? Well, I told you about BAT. That's Basic Authors Training. That's a writing course, but it's more than writing. You learn how to write. You learn how to get published. Or rather, you do get published. That's a promise that we make up here, that if you go through that course and complete the course, then we will publish your book if you want us to, at no additional cost. However, if you don't want us to publish you, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't want us to publish, but if you decided you didn't want us to publish, you want to go with somebody else, you can do that. But then you'll probably have to pay them, and you have to negotiate or whatever with them as to how much you're going to pay. But if you go with us, there's no additional cost. That's one of our services that we provide as Christians to Christians. Ministry publishing is for Christians who are serving in their church. Now, you don't have to ever prove to me that you're a Christian. You just say, I'm a Christian. I have no way of knowing whether that's true or not, any more than you have knowledge of whether I am truly a Christian or not. You have to take me at my word. Look at my lifestyle. Look at how I act. Listen to me and see, well, does he act and talk like a Christian? But you could make mistakes there too. The only God knows. And I was going to say you would know it too, but sometimes I went through my first 30 years of living thinking I was a Christian. So you can be wrong about that yourself. God knows. God can see inside your heart and know whether you're a Christian or not. So I don't have any way of checking up on that. I take you at your word. So, but this is based on your service in your local church. Do I require you to submit forms or proof or anything? No, I do not. I take you at your word. Does somebody have to send in a recommendation to me that you are a good, faithful servant of God? No, I take you at your word. Ministry publishing is for those of you who claim to be a Christian, who are attending a local church, serving in that local church in some fashion. I don't care if it's paid or unpaid. I don't care if it's there in that church, sweeping the floor, preaching a sermon, teaching a Sunday school class. Maybe you're a missionary to some far-off land or across the street, or maybe you're an evangelist who minister to local churches. If you are a Christian serving God in some kind of ministry, then we want you. Excuse me, I did it again, didn't I? I want you. Ministry publishing. We have a new one coming up. Now, this new one is going to be called Fast Track. You're going to be hearing something about that in the coming days. And you might want to circle May 9th. That's when it all comes to fruition. That's when this new service is launched, and there's a very special, one day only, special price, and it's an amazing price that the Lord has laid on my heart to do it this way, and so this is the way I'm doing it, and it's going to be called Fast Track, and I think you're going to like it. But if it doesn't replace it's actually part of ministry publishing. This is a 12-month thing, and this is also 12 months. This is going to be entirely different, and if you're just looking maybe at this here, you might be interested in this. But if you're interested in this, where you need to be taught, coached on how to write, that's it. That's the ministry. That is the thing for you. But if you're in here, and you want to look at getting your book out there, and you're confident that you can already have the book ready, then ministry publishing is available for you. There's very little coaching or teaching in this one. And there's going to be the same thing here. The thing is, it's going to be faster than 12 months. So I've already given you a lot of information about Fast Track. I'll give you some more. Starting on the 1st of May, I start giving out little hints as to how much more detail about it, more and more detail. And then on the 9th, it becomes available, and that's an exciting thing that I am looking forward to. So that's it. That's the promise I have here. We give back. We give to you the opportunity to learn, to become, to do. And we do it through 3 different services: Basic Authors Training, Ministry Publishing, and Fast Track. Thank you for your time, and I hope this episode has been very valuable to you to let you know exactly who we are, what we're doing, and why we are doing it. I'll see you in the next episode.